Let's just jump right into it. If you've spent literally any time on social media lately, you have for sure seen them. You know, those highly produced clips where a practitioner wraps a strap around someone's chin, gives this massive, sudden yank, and pop? It's called the YStrap adjustment, and honestly, the internet is absolutely obsessed with it. But with these videos racking up tens of millions of views, it really begs a serious clinical question. Is that deeply satisfying pop actually safe? Or are we just witnessing a really risky spectacle? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive straight in and separate the viral trend from the actual clinical truth.
So, is the viral Y-strap crack actually safe? That's the exact question we're answering today. And to do that, we're pulling straight from a recent, super comprehensive clinical commentary published in the Journal of Contemporary Chiropractic. We're going to look directly at the biomechanical facts, break down the actual physical forces at play, and, spoiler alert, explore a pretty concerning gap in the clinical evidence. We're skipping the hype completely and looking at what actually happens to your cervical spine when that strap gets pulled. Here is a quick roadmap for our explainer today. We're covering 1. The viral Y-strap trend. 2. Biomechanics and Lego blocks. 3. The scientific evidence gap. 4. High velocity, high danger. And finally, 5. Why you should probably avoid it.
All right, Section 1, the viral Y-strap trend. To really understand the controversy here, we first got to look at a massive disconnect between the tool itself. And honestly, nothing highlights that disconnect quite like this quote right from the official Y-strap manufacturers themselves. They stated, "Regarding using high force and/or high velocity, we do not encourage or recommend this, and how our clients use our tool is out of our control." Just let that sink in for a second. The exact people who literally make the device are explicitly warning against using it for those fast, forceful yanks that made it so famous online. They designed it for slow, gentle stretching. So you kind of have to ask, why the warning?
Which brings us to Section 2, biomechanics and Lego blocks. Let's look at the actual forces being applied to the human spine. Okay, let's start with a really basic definition. The Y in Y-strap, that just refers to the Y-axis. It's the vertical axis of the human body, running straight up and down along your spinal column, right from your head down to your pelvis. Now, traditional spinal manipulation usually involves really careful multi-directional forces. You know, a little rotation here, a little flexion there. But the Y-strap, it applies a single, straight, decompressive force exclusively along this one vertical line. To visualize this, think of the human spine like a really complex, interlocking tower of Lego bricks. If you want to gently relieve pressure between those bricks, you might slowly, carefully pull on both ends of the tower, right? That's gentle traction. But what happens if you grab the very top block, the head, and violently yank it upward without securing the base? You're not just moving one specific block anymore. You're sending this massive, completely uncontrolled shock wave of tensile force right through the entire interlocking structure. So, the crucial difference really lies in the application. Traditional targeted manipulation requires years and years of anatomical training to apply finesse. It's essentially finding the exact specific Lego block that needs adjustment and applying a precise, controlled force right there. The high-velocity Y-strap pull, on the other hand, is basically a shotgun approach. It violently yanks the top of the entire tower. It gaps literally every joint from the neck down with zero predetermined specificity. So yeah, it's a lot less about medical precision and way more about brute force. Moving on to Section 3, the scientific evidence gap. Let's see what peer-reviewed science actually has to say about all this. Well, it turns out there is a massive gap in the evidence. Now, to be totally fair here, gentle traction, like pulling the spine slowly to relieve pressure, has been around since Hippocrates back in the 4th century BC. The research actually shows that slow, intermittent traction can help with cervical radiculopathy and relieve nerve compression. But a high-velocity forceful Y-strap manipulation, researchers found essentially zero robust, high-quality studies proving its safety or efficacy. The clinical justification for that viral crack just doesn't exist in the literature. Let's actually fact-check a couple specific claims you'll see tossed around online. Proponents love to claim that the fast pull creates a vacuum in the discs to allow nutrient flow. But the researchers note there is zero robust evidence to actually back that up. Another major claim you'll hear is that because the Y-strap pulls straight up without twisting the neck, it's totally safe for your vertebral arteries. The clinical commentary pushes back hard on this one, because even without rotational twisting, aggressive, high-speed neck stretching can put excessive stress on the carotid sheath, the internal jugular vein, and your lower cranial nerves. You don't need to twist a vessel to damage it. Violently stretching it can cause vascular injury all on its own. And you might also hear practitioners defend the tool by saying, hey, it's an FDA-registered medical device. Okay, let's unpack the reality of that registration. It is a Class 1 medical device. All that actually means is that the device meets basic manufacturing and labeling standards. It basically just means the strap itself is a low-risk manufactured item, like it's not going to spontaneously combust on you. It absolutely does not mean the FDA endorses its medical efficacy, and it certainly doesn't guarantee that wrapping it around someone's head and yanking with high velocity is a safe medical procedure.
Which leads perfectly into Section 4, high velocity, high danger. The risks of this kind of rapid traction are very real, and honestly, it just comes down to basic physics. Let's talk about those physics for a second. 45 kilograms, that is the estimated amount of force required to pull a 200-pound person horizontally across a table from a stationary position in half a second. Practitioners might try to call the technique low amplitude, but given the sheer speed and the distance the patient's head travels, it should really be classified as high velocity, high amplitude. And remember, the vast majority of that 45 kilograms of force is concentrated proximally right at the cervical spine, your neck. Your neck is naturally way more prone to trauma than your stiffer thoracic and lumbar segments. It is simply not designed to withstand that kind of aggressive, instantaneous pulling. And when you apply that much uncontrolled force to such a delicate structure, things can definitely go wrong. Interestingly, some viral videos actually show patients reporting this weird tingling sensation down their spine right after the pull. The practitioner might brush it off as a rush, right? But clinically, this looks an awful lot like Lermit's phenomenon. That's a painful electric shock sensation that happens due to the overstretching of myelin-damaged nerve fibers in the spinal cord. Yikes. Other severe risks include brachial plexus nerve injuries, which happen when the head and neck are pulled violently away from the shoulders, and massive tissue and ligament strain.
But what's truly terrifying is this number, 24%. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'm healthy, my spine is totally fine, so it's a safe procedure for me. But MRI studies revealed that approximately 24% of completely asymptomatic individuals, meaning people with zero neck pain whatsoever, actually have hidden spinal cord compression. If you don't even know you have underlying degeneration or compression, and a practitioner applies a blind, violent 45-kilogram traction force to your neck, the results could literally be catastrophic. It's just a massive, massive risk.
All right, Section 5, why you should avoid it. The clinical consensus. The bottom line here really comes down to basic spinal care principles. If a patient has an underlying issue, like hypermobility or an unstable spinal segment somewhere, the very last thing they need is to be violently pulled. Unstable structures require targeted stabilization, things like rehabilitative exercises to actually improve function and mitigate risk. Hitting an already unstable spine with a nonspecific, high-velocity yank can so easily exacerbate that instability and cause severe structural failure. The researchers sum up the core issue perfectly with this quote: treating every joint from head to toe risks unpredictable outcomes that are nonspecific to the patient. Think about it. Standard medical practice is built entirely on precise, patient-centered diagnostics. You find the exact problem and you apply a targeted, appropriate solution for it. The high-velocity YStrap is the exact opposite of that. It's a generalized, one-size-fits-all shotgun approach that trades actual diagnostic precision for a loud, performative crack.
So we're going to leave you with this final thought. We live in an era where healthcare is so often commodified into these quick, 15-second entertainment clips. A loud pop and a shocked reaction might look absolutely amazing on your feed, but your cervical spine isn't a prop. Given the manufacturer's own explicit warnings, the glaring lack of scientific evidence, and the very real danger of vascular and neurological injury, you really have to ask yourself, is participating in a viral trend actually worth gambling your long-term spinal cord stability? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you next time as we keep uncovering the truth behind the trends.